When we experience trauma, we remember the entire experience. That experience includes not just the external things that are traumatizing us, it includes the ways our bodies respond. Typically, these would be sweating, headaches, high pulse rate, dry mouth, nausea, etc. You don't get to choose your trauma symptoms, but you can choose how you respond and process the trauma. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back. Queen Osset here. And today we're going to do a walkthrough of a deck that initially I was not impressed with, only because I looked at the box. But we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to talk to you today about using these tools that we have to help us develop and grow, and working through them as a journey. We are entering a time of the year where the days are getting shorter and the nights cooler. We're moving into the dark, resting state of the earth. And this is a time when many of us like to do shadow work. Shadow work is taking the time to delve deep within yourself, to pull out all these things that have been buried and suppressed and give them some sort of illumination. Give them some love, some nurturing. Oftentimes in doing shadow work, what is required is getting to a deep understanding of who you are and your thought patterns and your beliefs and your experiences, and understanding or really seeing them as truth or an illusion, so to speak. Of course, many of us have fears that may seem bigger, out of control, inexplicable. And so we feel small. So it's better for us to just hide and not do anything. And many of us also think that sometimes doing that, facing our shadows, looking within ourselves, will require a great sacrifice. But as the book here for the Primordial Tarot, for this card, which would be Birth of the Soul. This is a depiction of the brutal tearing apart of a body, and the parts are then destroyed. His body and his ego have dissolved into nothingness. He is sacrificed for the good of the tribe and for the good of the land. He goes as willingly as he can. It is his duty and his calling. Every shaman goes through this initiatory experience of ritual death in the spirit realm. After the sacrifice, he is recreated and returns with a knowledge of life and death. Only now does he have the wisdom to truly serve the people. Many of us, unfortunately, haven't even gotten to that process yet, haven't even gotten to that stage yet. We are in this place right here where we're tied up and we feel restricted and we become afraid, not knowing that it's part of the process in order for you to get to the next level. Now, Some of us, we may break apart. We already have our own cracks and fissures that we have to deal with. And in doing so, we fill those cracks and fissures with things that we feel may be of value, that we may equate to being gold. We're not quite the same. We're still broken, and we have an outer perception of actually being whole. But are we really whole? When we start to fill ourselves with something of substance, we may be concerned. Will I start leaking? Will what I've been holding onto, whatever's in my container, will it start oozing out? Is it good stuff that's going to start easing out of the cracks? Or is it all the stuff that has been stagnant in my life? Therefore, we do nothing. We become afraid. We stand still. We no longer grow. But man, in his desire to bring light to something, has always taken a chance. Some, anyway, always. I'm sure the first man to discover fire, maybe there were those around him who said, don't do that, you don't know what you're doing. Seems like a crazy idea. But they did it anyway. In that process as well, you suffer some sort of trauma. Any sort of change requires or brings a trauma to oneself. And it's learning to work through and work with that trauma, and then allowing the healing to come into your life. So I've been reading a book by this gentleman, and I'll share it with you. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. And it was written by Resmaa, Menakem. And one of the things that he says is that, and this is his quote, I have been to the suffering edge. That is where I found what I was made of, that I am more, that I must build up others and myself. Small, consistent challenges to comfort is how I grew, and how you can grow too. And he offers, Resmaa Menakem, he offers actually a 5-day racialized trauma home study course. And this is a book about how the things that we endure, we actually internalize them. And with me working through an understanding of my fibromyalgia, one of the things I have come to grips with fairly recently is that I've always been on high alert. Always. My body has always been in a high state of anxiety and unrest. So there's another book that I was told to get. The Body Keeps Its Memories. I don't know. I have to look it up. Give me just a second. Yes. It's The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Okay? The Body Keeps Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. That's the next book I'm going to read. I'm just going to wait for that to arrive in the mail. I'm determined to get to the bottom of this pain, this constant pain that I've been feeling. Over the past few days, my pain has intensified, and I realize that as much as I'd like to turn off the news and put my head in the sand as to what's going on. I really cannot do that. So I work with the tools that I have. This book, work with my own shadows, my own preconceived notions, my own restrictions, my own ideas. And I have a few decks that are similar to this one that I'm going to show you. Let's see. The Crone Tarot is a favorite. Asks you to go deep within, and I do have some commentary about being a crone. It's has nothing to do with age and the stopping of your menses and the changing of your hair color. It's about experiences and things that you've gone through and sharing those experiences. I have the Wild Messengers Tarot deck. This is a tarot. It's more like an oracle deck. It's a combination. It's very animal centric, but the words are very empowering. But not in that woo-woo, fuzzy unicorn kind of way. Not for me. It's makes you battle ready. I don't know how else to explain it. Makes you battle ready. Then I have this one, the Wild Kuan Yin, and this is a deck that's been out for several years, and you all have seen this. It's reprinted, smaller box now, but this is the one oracle deck. I think that actually had me start really looking into oracles. I remember when it came into the shop. And I looked at the imagery. I really, buffalo is one of my avatars. You don't hear people say that, but the buffalo, yeah, is one of my avatars. So anything with a buffalo, anything in burgundy, I'm going for that. So I took the shrink wrap off, and I shuffled, and I said, what message do you have for me? And the card that came out, I can't even tell you what it is. It was that long ago. But it caused such an emotional response within me that I said, okay, I'm going to work with this deck. I felt like this Wild Kuan Yin energy had, torn aside the curtains of my soul and said, I'm going to help you. We're going to get through this. We're going to work through this. Okay? Then I got the Weavers. And the Weavers is so intense for many of us that we can only work with, many of us, one Weaver a month. These are old sacred energies of, those who have come before us for us to tap into, and their stories are woven into fabric, their cloth. And for me, that's the connection. Our stories, our dreams, the work, the energy is put into the cloth. And you may look at it and just see, oh, this is a beautiful piece of fabric. But when I look at this, I see story, and I see history, and I see the culture. And then, of course, I have cheeky decks. There we go. I like to take this with me when I'm hanging out with friends who are not necessarily into the woo, but they, interested a little bit, and it delivers just as poignant and kick you in the behind sort of messages, straight up to the point. And then, of course, in its genre, we have the Rebel deck. Another fun deck. Cute, entertaining. So I figured, all right, let's see what this Lantern deck is about. Let's see. I'm going to show you the book here. Lantern. That's the guidebook. So, of course, you know, it's put out by Blue Angel. Typical Blue Angel box. What is it? That matte finish, what you call rose petal finish, etc., etc. I love the coloration. I mean, the back of the box is burgundy, and it's, in my mind, it's delicious. I love the colors. But you know, after a while you decide, I don't want to buy a deck just because I love the colors. I need to buy a deck. I want to spend my money on things that are going to be a little bit more meaty and give me something. So when I read the back of this box, embark on a beautiful soul nurturing journey with the ever-present and loving light of the eternal feminine wisdom as your guide. And I'm thinking, gag me with a spoon. Okay, hold on. Ask a question and connect with the maidens, mothers, guardians, and crones of this profound and powerful deck for clarity, growth, assistance, and healing. Okay. Use this deck to draw lessons, solutions, and insight from the shadows and be empowered to walk in truth and shine in your light in the world. Now my interest was caught. The 44 cards feature key phrases for immediate answers, and the guidebook offers further meaning so you can integrate a deeper understanding of the messages. With guidance for every stage and phase of life, the Lantern Oracle is a go-to deck for tapping into the supportive, caring, honest, and timeless divine sisterhood. So there were a few words in that paragraph that caught my interest, held my interest, and said, you know what? Let's take a look at this deck. Let's see what she's all about. So I did a little investigative work. This is a deck that was created by Angelina Mirabito. Angelina Mirabito, who is a PhD, and is illustrated by, I want to say, Yuly Alejo. Okay? So, Angelina Mirabito is Australian, and she has done something that was really, really thought-provoking and in alignment with who I am. So, let's see. Her PhD investigated how and why writing fiction can facilitate post-traumatic growth in adult survivors of childhood trauma. This academic inquiry arose from the post-traumatic growth she experienced in writing her first novel, Warrior. She completed graduate studies to understand how and why writing a fictional version of her story, she was able to liberate herself from the limiting effects of trauma on a clinical level. Consequently, she came to identify how best to assist others in using the story writing process to grow beyond their wounds and lead a more empowered life. And so when I read that about her, I realized she created this deck from her experience. Not too many other deck creators have done that. She was abused as a child, and through writing, journaling, going through the process, of course it's going to take a lot for many of us, she was able to bring healing to herself. So I decided, you know what, let me give this a shot. Right? She has various lectures. I'm going to tell you that her website right now is still in progress. It's not up and running yet. So, the Lantern Oracle. And it starts out with the very first paragraph says, the Lantern Oracle illuminates the 4 directions of the eternal feminine wisdom from her 4 phases of consciousness: Maiden, water; mother, earth; guardian, air; and crone, fire. Each sphere of feminine energy speaks to a stage in our human development and spiritual evolution. Well, we've always heard about Maiden, Mother, Crone. Where did this 4th person come in? Where did this 4th consciousness comes in? Where did this 4th idea come in? Okay. So, typical Blue Angel book. Matte. Within it, let's see, how many pages? Oh, 143 pages. You can see that I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Too bright? Maybe you can see. I've started to highlight areas in the book, and I tend to do that when something really piques my interest. See if I can adjust this a little bit. Nope, didn't want to do that. Oh, we're going to need the lights. Okay. So within the book, she breaks down the 4 aspects. We'll get to that in just a moment. She has ideas of how to use the cards, how to work with them, consecrate your deck if that's what you want to do. But she also talks about in-depth study work. I'm going to get to that as well. And of course it has 2 spreads that you can work with here. Two spreads to work with. One is called the Lantern spread, and I wish for clarity on, and it gives you 4 positions. And then we have the Luminosity spread, and it's 5 positions. What I did was a deck interview, and I'll share that with you at the end. So what she says here about the 4 guiding phases of Maiden, Mother, Guardian, and Crone are represented by the 4 colors of consciousness: youthful green, radiant rose, deep orange, and pure silver. So each segment is broken into, I'm going to say perhaps 11 cards. Okay, so I have here the first segment is the Maiden. Keywords here, some of them: openness, vitality, vulnerability. The Maiden's energy typically radiates the power of her adventurous and fearless desire to explore. Her playful perspective is forward-moving yet malleable and impulsive. She is without strategy, purpose, or discipline in her wild and careless appetite to discover. And her cards are 1 through 11. So we'll take a look. The Maiden. Distorted perceptions. Weeping wound. You are not your wounds. Many of us, I think right now, are in this place. We're working on healing those wounds. I know that sometimes it can be difficult when those wounds are constantly reopened, but you're not your wounds. Responding, not reacting. Okay, I skipped one there. Yes, I know. Okay. Next we have Mother. A mother is earth and fertility. Did I say Maiden was water and fluidity, her element? Mother is earth and fertility. Young adulthood, learning, choices, passion, being broken open. And mother's responsibility, the responsibility is her challenge at this phase, right? This period typically involves some sort of disillusionment. This can lead to growth and insight. The mother offers lessons that often hurt, yet they are lessons from which heroines are made. The mother harnesses the power of rose wisdom. This wisdom and energy are asked to step up and work through emotional roller coasters. She can either create again or retreat to the ruins of what is not as it seems. And her cards are 12 through 22. So, of course, you have a pregnant woman. I like that idea of a mother. It's false beliefs. Let's see, card number 13, since I'm here. Once the untruths that we believe about ourselves are illuminated, so are the ways we can release the false limitations they confine us to. I'm feeling like this is a deck of the times needed right now. Look at that. Wishful expectations. My gosh. Can you guys see that? Can you see that image? Let me hold that up a little bit. Maybe not? Yes? Wow. This artist, I want to say her name is Yuly Alejo. She is a fantasy artist. Of course, you can tell by the depiction of the art. Listen, okay, we've already talked about this. I don't look for a deck with the anticipation it's going to be diverse, okay? I knew what the artwork and the artist was coming to me with, and I appreciate it. I actually love it, so. Okay. Misalignment. Let's go a little further there. Melton mask. Allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. Women supporting women. And this is where we are, or need to be right now. Number 22. Together, we can transcend our individual limitations. When we realize that we are not alone or judged in our greatest vulnerability, hurts, and confusion, we heal. Women who have walked parallel paths know how to create this regenerative space. Life changes the second we are gifted with an experience of there being nothing to be ashamed of, but only pain to be released, witnessed, healed, and moved on from. Women supporting women potentially offer this life-changing moment when they hold loving space and support in response to an individual unburdening herself of a shame-filled secret. You know, when I looked at this deck initially, I shed a lot of tears. I did. And it wasn't me that was crying. Those were my ancestors. But I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. Now we move on to the Guardians. Phase 3. This is the midlife. You know, we tend to jump from Maiden, Mother, Crone. Where is the midlife, right? For many, I mean, biologically, I've been a crone for about 15, 20 years. But I would say, holistically, I'm at my midlife. I'm 59. I would say that I'm at my midlife right now. So I'm glad that this is here. You know, I feel like the midlife energy is one that you start to really understand who you are and where you're headed and what you're not going to deal with anymore. Like you're firm, you're good, you know. It's like reigniting your passion for things in life. Your children are grown and you found a career that you love, and you spend your life and your times with people that you truly enjoy, and you fight for what you want, you fight for change, and you stand up and uphold righteousness and justice, and you know your truth, and you are very, very confident. And I think that's what midlife is all about. So I'm glad that this deck approaches this aspect of my life. I mean, as I said, I've been a crone for quite some time, but that doesn't mean the biological changes doesn't make you automatically a crone. Still some things that have to be done, and I think that, you know, we need to understand what it is to be a crone. Okay. Anyway, broken dreams. Yeah, when you look back, emptied. The ending and beginning lie at either side of the same door. It is not uncommon for life to confront us with situations that seem to extinguish our light for some time. However, it is rare for individuals to disclose the degree of despair experienced during this period. Exhaustion and depleted resources from the end of a career choice, relationship, or phase can leave us believing that our efforts, aspirations, and opportunities to make something of ourselves were in vain. That our best was not enough to make our lives work in the way that we had hoped. I did not think that at age 59 I'd be working at the Crystal Fox. I had it pretty much laid out where I was going to be, what I was going to be doing. At least up until I was like 30. Anyway, emotional energy, forgiveness. And this is where I think a lot of us need to work right now. Forgiveness is hurt blocks our light. The only forgiveness that we can receive is that which we experience for ourselves. In essence, to forgive another, life, or the world is as irrelevant as being forgiven by another, life, or the world. If we have not forgiven ourselves, we can neither receive forgiveness nor have it to give. Forgiveness is a word that often evokes in us a sense of defensiveness and anger. Why should we be the ones to forgive when we were the ones wronged? When exploring the concept of forgiveness, the key lies in the word wrong, not in the doing or the doer of the wrong. Every happening is neutral in and of itself, and as indifferent in nature. It is us who bring such emotions of wrong, right, good, and bad to stimuli. This is why the only forgiveness that matters is ours. We deactivate the negativity within and change what are energetically matched to our external reality. Releasing the unforgiveness frees us into a higher vibrancy and creates a shift in our possibilities. The beginning of everything true and the end of everything false starts the moment we forgive ourselves for having forgotten that we are not our bodies, our behavior, our memories, or the stories that we live out. Nor are we in any way how we have ever been mistreated or disrespected. We are not the wrongs done to us or that we may have done to others. Nor are we made broken, defective, or less than from them. There is nothing to be fixed or added to. You are, however, always required to release anything that is unforgiven within you, so that the loving white light that you are can transparently shine in all of its brilliance. Forgiveness is your way home. You are the only light that you need. Feel your way home to spirit self by replacing all that hurts with the shining white light of your pure self-love that you are. Yeah. Okay. We all have to work on that, right? Renewal. Intention. Make sure this light is not too bright. Okay. And sharing. And now we move on to the fourth phase. Phase 4 is the Crone energy. This is elder, and your words are acceptance, integration, reconcilement, and wisdom. Circles. Clarity begins in the eye of the storm. If we do nothing different happens. We will only continue to reenact our default setting automatically. A life lived in circles inevitably limits what is possible for us. It can also be harmful when toxic relationships, addictions, and financial dependence is involved. Awareness of how we perpetuate more of the same is necessary before we can consciously create an upward and outward spiral of life for ourselves. Wow. And then there's a lot of questions and prompts for this. Okay, so let's get on with it. The presence of absence. Confusion. Growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through the uncertainty. At some point, we all encounter feeling at a loss as to what to do next. Our mind can become as conflicted as the advice we receive. Our emotions can polarize and overwhelm us to the point of distress, especially when the stakes seem too high to risk making a mistake. Our belief that there is a right choice or answer will prevent all that we fear from happening can be paralyzing. Fear has a power to stop us in our tracks, especially when it seems logically right, is at odds with what feels emotionally safe. For example, one choice might seem to guarantee safety and security, but feel uncomfortably uncompromising, or rather compromising. Let's see. You may feel helpless. You may feel helpless and without any available choice that feels authentic. What is best and truly possible for us is rarely as clear as hindsight reveals it to be. When we need clarity the most, it will be helpful to remember that recognizing that we do not know what to do is as necessary a step in the process of realizing what to do. Acknowledging the not knowing is the way to finding our next authentic move in navigating a way through a bewilderment predicament. A solution is not found in making one right decision, but rather the result of many small and consistent choices, actions, thoughts, and behavior changes. This is because significant problems are born of a web of threads that are not quite right for us. It requires us to dismantle, clear, and replace each thread one by one with a new and right one for us. This process of dismantling, clearing, and replacing is what significant and sustainable change and clarity are. We create our solutions cumulatively by simplifying the complexity, removing it, and deliberately choosing something else. Clarity often comes at the cost of making at least one mistake, one wrong turn, or failure along the way. For most, it takes making many. This is how we typically learn our way forward. Mistakes are preferable to remaining on the ground defeated. Failures are gifts, lanterns, if you will, illuminating our true direction. We need to know better to see and do better. That is why every perceived error is actually part of what is correct step forward in your direction. It shows you your true way. Trust yourself. For any current confusion you are facing, place the hand that you write with on your heart and receive what knowing arises in you to do next. If part of this knowing is to seek advice, support, or assistance from an appropriate order or other, then do so. This crone supports you in committing to taking one small step at a time, on your terms and at your own pace, as you enter into the ever-increasing clarity and confidence. Yeah. This one, repair. I really like this one. This is about, let's see here. I enjoyed this one. Repair, because it talks about making amends rather than fun times. And it talks about the true constitution of our relationships. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Crone encourages you to welcome the truth in whatever conflict, resentment, or hurt that arises in what is at heart a real good and a genuine relationship as the opportunity to grow. With good and safe people, it benefits them and us to embrace the challenges, the differences, and disagreements that inevitably surface throughout the long haul. Conflicts only seem to threaten the connections we share with loved ones, and this is especially so when we let them fester without discussing an issue and do not equally commit to mending whatever stitches have come undone. Before starting to repair a rupture in a relationship, it can be beneficial to take some time out to calm down and get perspective. When bringing conflict to the table, if both parties are respectfully, safely, and patiently meet each other halfway with a genuine willingness to work it out, they are blessed with a sacred relationship. Okay. Perspective we have. Integration, these are ourselves as we get older, I guess you could say, as we go through different phases in life. And then we have this one, Lantern. And I really was not sure what Lantern is doing in the Crone stage, but it's about consciousness is light. And it says the Crone has completed the circle of phases and perspectives pertaining to feminine consciousness. Maiden, Mother, Guardian, and Crone. The lanterns hanging from the featured Crone's wrist illuminate her world with the clarity of having integrated her spirit self with herself. She has successfully released all of the illusionary filters that had created limiting effects on her mind and fed the unhelpful aspects of her ego. The white light of love that the Crone is now reaches out all that is within her periphery. Without judgment or expectation, she is now capable of objectively observing all with compassionate consideration and calm composure. All matters in life are neutral. Many are not conducive to the meaning and significance that we or others impulsively attach to them. When we view predicaments without emotions or the significance it holds for us, how things make sense beyond our personalization of them are limited. To separate ourselves from the drama, assumptions, and heightened emotions is to see rather than react according to the underlying dynamics at play. The Crone has shown up to remind us that whenever you feel challenged in life, stop whatever you're doing and ask yourself, what am I being invited to learn here? Every obstacle, moment of overwhelm and hardship offers necessary and valuable lessons. Okay, so I've shown you all the cards. Now, what I had done, I had a spread that I did. And it's I guess you could say it's a deck interview. Oracle deck interview. So my first card that I have pulled for this question is, what or which of your messages is the one I should be the least concerned with right now? And I got voice. I should not be concerned with my voice. Card number 30. That was part of the Guardians too. So that made me feel as though, okay, I've come into my own. I'm at that stage, that midlife stage. So it says, you are here to be known, so speak and be seen. Yeah. It tells me that I'm the only person, and I'm reading in the first person, even though it has here, the third person. I am the only person who can proceed to make me visible or invisible or silent. Once I accept myself, no one and nothing can have the limiting effects of judgment, criticism, or rejection. It is always up to me to let no doubt or fear have the power to bury me in mutating shadows. Remember that every perceived rejection, setback, or failure is a lesson forming my pathway to a door that opens, and only I can stop myself from walking through it. My difference, this is the Guardian's message for me. Your difference is your blessing and responsibility to share. So I don't need to be concerned with that because I am doing that. Okay? So my card number 2, which is, which one of your cards would say contains the essence of you? Remember, I'm speaking to the deck now. And it talks about trusting tricksters. And yeah, I can see myself doing that. The trickster's power is only your trust. You're always free to withdraw it. And it tells me, recognize that what is going on is contrary to what you were groomed to believe is taking place. Nurture yourself with the trust and courage and passion that you gave to the trickster. And that's what I feel like this deck is going to do, is help me recognize that I've given a lot of support and power and love, and it has not been reciprocated. And it's okay for me to withdraw and not feel guilty about holding on to something, right? And besides, it's got a beautiful fox on there too. So, okay. And the third card, which of your messages do my guides, angels, I say my ancestors, feel I need to hear the most urgently? And I pulled the unknown. And the unknown and the pillars, that is definitely a representation of my ancestors. The pillars for me are the foundation of everything that makes me who I am. Card number 5, we know, is about that great change. And this is a card that's in the Maiden aspect. So I'm not an ancestor, and my ancestors will always see me as a child. So it says here, this is what my ancestors wanted me to know. Trust that you have the sufficient skills and knowledge to navigate your way through an unknown aspect of your life. This card has shown up to remind you that if you do nothing different, nothing changes. You are so much more than the accumulation of your fears. You are capable of moving forward despite any uncertainty that you might feel. And I did have a question in mind, and that was like confirmation and clarification for me that I'm moving in the right direction. So, card number 4, which of your messages do you feel is most vital for me to hear now? Card number 20, enough. And this is in the mother section. And it says here, you were born enough. You were born enough. And mother's message is, know and honor your boundaries. Prioritize your spirit self-need for authentic representation. Let those who do not respect you as you are and on your terms fall away, so that the people and the opportunities that do can come in. The featured mother is an example of someone who has not always known her worth or how to live with integrity. Initially, she had no boundaries and no understanding of how to assert them, or her inherent right to have them respected. She did not realize that she has always been and will always be enough. All that you are, all that you have, and all that you do is enough. It is more than enough. The fact that you breathe is all that is ever required of you to be enough. So give yourself permission to simply be. If you are tired, do less. If you lack pleasure, do more of what brings you joy. Always be you. There is nothing to add, win, acquire, achieve, or improve in order to be enough. You were born enough. And card number 5, in the long run, which of your messages do you think will become more and more important to me? So I'm asking the deck, which of your messages will become more and more important to me, to us? And I got this card. Transitions. Yeah. You have all of the inner resources you need to cross whatever bridges arise on your path. Transitioning takes as long as it takes to adapt to new circumstances or perspectives. The tension of not being able to turn back and not knowing how to adjust effectively to what is new can be disconcerting. There can be varying degrees of pain, resistance, and inner turmoil as we struggle to break our former self into a new way of life and a version of ourselves. Until we figure out how all that is new to us works and reconcile ourselves with it, it can be difficult to trust others as well as ourselves. Stepping or being thrust over a new threshold requires courage. There are no guarantees that familiarizing ourselves with our new direction would yield anything amenable to us. All that we can do is give life our best by being in the moment and putting 100% into effectively dealing with whatever presents itself. We learn as we go. Once you know better, you do better. Transitions are raw and unstable periods that require time and patience to adjust and recalibrate. Trying to go back is an illusionary trap that would be best to be avoided. Understand that a return to what was past is not possible. The reality of it no longer exists for you. However, to complete the process of transition, you must choose to leave and let go of what was. Whether this change in circumstances is something that you have wanted or not is irrelevant. You need to be the one who internally releases what was to truly enter into what is now. The sooner you own the departure and reconcile yourself with whatever the change is, the smoother and briefer your period of transition will be. A minor or major time of transition may be at hand. The Crone wishes to assure you that it's always okay for your period of transition to be messy, awkward, uncomfortable, and met with resistance. Be gentle with yourself as you find new rhythm routines and ways. It is helpful to reflect upon prior transitions and the wisdom gained from each, as well as to keep more of those going forward. And her message is, transitions are the blessings rarely recognized as such at the time. So I need to remember that going through this change, I just need to fasten my seatbelt, put my hands up and go, whee! Another change is coming through. And not to fight the change. The more you fight the change, the harder it is. It's a straitjacket, right? I feel like the more you move, from what I understand, the tighter it gets. When you relax, it loosens up, and then you can free yourself. And so, before I go, I have pulled a final message, and I took a photo of it so you can see that, and I got Inner Life as the final message for us collectively, because I just wanted to see, what else do you have to say? And this is a Crone aspect, inner life. Card number 43. Your inner life is a garden to be cultivated. And she says, without a healthy and solid sense of self, communing within spirit self, there is only ever smoke and mirrors without. To relate to others from this facade of false self is to forge false connections that create distance rather than closeness. Deep and lasting relationships become possible once we have established such a relationship with ourselves. The loving luminosity of our inner life shines through all density, deception, and distractions. All shadows burn into the dusty ashes illusions ultimately are. This is why shadows bury instead of heal what is beautiful but injured within them. This is also why shadows need the light's loving burn to peel away and crumble them back to ash. To bring light to our shadows is to see them as the perversions of something that has started off good and got distorted, regardless of how threatening any shadow of ours may currently feel, or may have once seemed. No shadow ever is, has been, or can be anything more or less than the goodness that got lost, overburdened, or injured along the way. Your shadows are burdened with the essential information about yourself that you ignore. They need you to acknowledge them with loving attention, compassion, and appropriate action. Until this inner process is complete, true intimacy with another is unlikely and ultimately unsustainable, for it first needs to be established within. Tend to your garden first. The shadows you illuminate will reveal all the good that they have mistakenly buried with fourfold radiance, strength, and blessings. And with that, I am complete with my walkthrough of the Lantern Oracle. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's put this here so you can see better. I hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment. Very long-winded video, and I do appreciate you coming by. Until next time, take care.